Hare Krishna. Welcome to our Bhagavad Gita class. We are on chapter 16 and the class is on the divine and the demonic nature. This chapter has got 4 sections. We have already finished Devi Sampada and Asuri Sampada. We have started with the activities of the demonic people and their consequences. We'll continue with that, and then we'll look at the last part, that is giving up demonic tendencies and following scriptures, and then glories of chapter 16 from Padma Puran. In Satyug, it is believed that the divine and the demonic, they lived in different lokas. Like divine was in Swargalok, whereas demonic were in Patal Lok. In Treta Yug, they were in different countries. For example, Ramji was in Ayodhya in India, and then Ravan was in Sri Lanka. So they were in 2 different countries. In Dwapar, the divine and demonic, they still moved closer. They were in the same country but different cities. The Pandavas were in Indraprasth and the Kauravas were in Hastinapur. And in Kalyug, in which we are now, the divine and the demonic, they are in the same people. So we have some qualities which are divine and we have some qualities which are demonic, right? So Krishna in Bhagavad Gita chapter 16 explains us what are the divine qualities and what are the demonic qualities. Now when he talks about the demonic qualities, we assume a demon means having horns, long teeth. It is not like that. It is basically the nature of the people that could be, that is divine or demonic. So what we read earlier is about the divine qualities that Krishna explained in Shlok 1 to 3, and he says the divine qualities are fearlessness. What is fearlessness? Fearlessness is that always knowing that Krishna is with us, and then abhayam, no fear, because we know we are totally dependent upon Krishna. Then sattva samshuddhi, purification of one's existence. Then cultivation of spiritual knowledge, charity, dan, self-control, darpa. Then sacrifice, performing sacrifice. Then study of Vedas, study of our scriptures. Then austerities, simplicity, non-violence, truthfulness, freedom from anger, renunciation, tranquility, gentleness, modesty, forgiveness, fortitude, modesty, and all these things, 26 qualities he described, and he explained all of them as divine qualities. And then he explained about the demonic qualities. Dambho, darpo, abhimanascha, krodha, pashmevacha, agyan. So he says in the Shlok 4, he says Dambho, it is the pride. And because of pride, what happens? Arrogance. We have arrogance in people who have a lot of pride. And false prestige, ego, right? Conceit, anger, harshness, ignorance. These are the qualities which are demonic in nature. You don't have to look for people with horns, but when you see a person displaying all these qualities, extremely proud, extremely arrogant, harsh with people, no compassion, then you can see that these are the demonic qualities, and we are displaying these. And all of us have a percentage of it. It only depends upon someone has got in a less quantity, someone has got in a huge, in a more quantity. And then Krishna explained that those who are demonic by nature, they do not know what should be done and what should not be done, and neither they are clean, nor they show proper behavior, nor their truth is found in them. This is what we learned in the previous class. And then he talked about how do they behave, what is their behavior, and what is the action, what do we see because of that. We say the demonic people, they believe that the main aim of this life is to gratify the senses, and until end of their life, what are they doing? They are running after earning more money, accumulating more wealth, and because of that they are always in anxiety, they're never peaceful. And then why? Because they're bound by thousands and thousands of desires, and those desires, and that also push them to secure money illegally, right? Then we also learned that the demonic people think that so much wealth I have got today, and I will gain more based on my other schemes, and so much is mine now. And when someone, they see that someone is actually becoming better than them or equal to them, then what do? They kill. They consider them, because of envy that they have, they consider them as their enemy. They want to kill them. So they say, I've killed one, and then if anyone else is like equivalent or better than them, they want to destroy them in some way, right? And they want to be the richest man's, and then and only for namesake they will do sacrifice, show off that I'm doing this, I'm doing that, give charity, whatever they do, it's like in a just to show off that they have their. So this is what we have learned till the last class. Now today we'll continue with activities of demonic people and their consequences. So shlok number 16. Yeah, please read after me. अनेक चित्त विभ्रांता मोह जाल समावृता प्रसक्ता काम भोगेषु पतन्ति नरकेषु चौ अनेक चित्त विभ्रांता मोह जाल समावृता प्रसक्ता काम भोगेषु पतन्ति नरकेषु चौ अनेक चित्त विभ्रांता मोह जाल समावृता प्रसक्ता काम भोगेषु patanti narakeshu chau. Now we saw in the previous shlok that the people with the demonic behavior, what do they want to do? They want to assemble lot of wealth and they are busy in sense gratification, to enjoy more material pleasure, and that is what they are running after. That is the goal of the life for them. So what happens because of this? Anek chit vibhranta. Anek means many. So anek chit is basically the anxieties, vibhranta. So they are perplexed with lot of anxieties. They are actually surrounded by lot of anxieties. Moha jala samavita. Moha means delusion. Jal is like a network of delusions. So they are surrounded by the network of delusions, illusions, and lot of desires. That is what they are surrounded by. And then prasakta kama bhogeshu, and to enjoy the calm, enjoy the senses, they are so much engrossed that patanti narakeshu cha. What happened? They finally fall down into narak. Narak is hell. So let us read the translation by Srila Prabhupada. Thus perplexed by various anxieties, and bound by a network of illusions, they become too strongly attached to sense enjoyment, and fall down into hell. And next shlok. Atma sambhavita sthabda धनमान मदान्वितः यजन्ते नाम यज्ञैस्ते दम्भेन अविधिपूर्वकम् आत्मसंभाविता स्तब्धा धनमान मदान्वितः यजन्ते नाम यज्ञस्ते दम्भेन अविधिपूर्वकम् आत्मसंभाविता स्तब्धा
मदान्वितः
धनमानमदान्विता
यजन्ते नाम यज्ञैस्ते
यजन्ते नाम यज्ञैस्ते दम्भेनाविधिपूर्वकम् आत्मसंभाविता स्तब्धा. They are so much self-complacent and so much prudent. Dhanaman, dhan means wealth. Man is false prestige. Mad means they are deluded. They are intoxicated by the wealth and man, false prestige. So much so that they do yajante naam yagyaste. They perform yagya. They perform sacrifices only for namesake, so that they can, why dambhe? Dambhe means for proud, to show off. They'll perform yagya, and that too they'll perform avidhi purvakam, not as per the scriptures. Avidhi purvakam, not as per the proper vidhi, that is the proper rituals. They don't follow the proper rituals, proper way. So they perform these without a proper rules and regulations. So let us read the translation by Srila Prabhupada. Self-complacent and always impudent, deluded by wealth and false prestige, they sometimes proudly perform sacrifices in name only, without following any rules and regulation. Next look. Ahankaram balam darpam कामं क्रोधं च संश्रितः माम् आत्मपरदेहेषु पद्विषन्तोऽभयसूयकः अहंकारं बलं दर्पं कामं क्रोधं च संश्रितः माम आत्मपरदेहेषु प्रद्विषन्तोऽभ्यसूयकाः अहंकारं बलं दर्पं कामं क्रोधं च संश्रितः माम् आत्मपरदेहेषु प्रद्विषन्तोऽभ्यसूयकाः. So the demonic people, they are filled with ahankar. Ahankar is lot of pride, lot of false prestige, ego. Balam, strength. Darpam is also pride. Kamam, kam is lust. Krodh, anger. Sanshita means they take shelter of this. So they are full of, these are the qualities which are very, very prominent in them. And to the extent what happens, Mam Atma Pardeshu, I am in their Atma. Krishna is in there, situated in their Atma as super soul. And Par, in other dehe, in the other bodies also, Krishna is situated as super soul. They forget that. And Pradvishanto Abhisuyaka, what do? They blaspheme. They start blaspheming the God and the religion, the scriptures. They start making fun of that. So let us read the translation by Srila Prabhupada. Bewildered by false ego, strength, pride, lust and anger, the demons become envious of the super personality of Godhead, who is situated in their own bodies, and the bodies of others, and blaspheme against the real religion. Yeah. So it reminds us of Hiranyakashipu. What did he say? He said, Prahlad, and to all his citizens, that I am God, worship me. And when Prahlad said, no, you are not, it's Vishnu, I'll worship him. He said, no. And what he did, he tried his best to kill Prahlad. But then, whoever Krishna is supporting, nothing can be done, right? So, people like Hiranyakashipu, people like Vena, which we have read in Bhagavatam, they are the examples of such demonic behavior, right? Then we go to the next slok. What Krishna does to them, let's read that. Tanaham dveshatah kruran
क्रूरान्
संसारेषु नराधमान्
संसारेषु नराधमान्
क्षिपाम्यजस्रम् अशुभान्
क्षिपामि अजस्रम् अशुभान्
आसुरीष्वेव योनिषु
आसुरे एव योनिषु
तान् अहं द्विषितः क्रूरान्
तान् अहं विसितः क्रूरान्
संसारेषु नराधमान्
संसारेषु नराधमान्
क्षिप्याम्य अजसम् अशुभान्
क्षिप्यामि अजस्रम् अशुभान्
आसुरीष्व एव योनिषु
एव योनिषु तान् अहं विसतः क्रूरान्
तान् अहं द्विषितः क्रूरान्
संसारेषु नारधामन्
संसारेषु नराधमान्
क्षिपामि अजस्रम् अशुभान्
क्षिपाम्य अजसम् अशुभान्
असुरिस् एव योनिषु
आसुरीष्वेव एव योनिषु. So Krishna says Tan aham means I, Tan means to all of them. What do I do? And he defines them as Naradhama. Naradhama means the lowest among mankind. Naradhama. So among Nar, all the lowest among mankind. What do they do? Dvishitam. Dvishitam is envious. Kruran, who are cruel, who are mischievous. So what I do? Sansareshu. In this sansar, whoever is like that, Shipamyam ajasam ashubhan asurishve yonishu. I actually push them into the demonic species of life. Right? So let us read the translation by Srila Prabhupada. Those who are envious and mischievous, who are the lowest among men, I perpetually cast into the ocean of material existence, into various demonic species of life. So those who have those demonic behavior, ahankara, darpa, abhiman, kam, krodha, those who are filled with that, what does Krishna do? He actually, push them into the lower species of life. Yeah, they go into the lower, the narak. They go into the narak. They go into the lower species of life. And then what else he does? Asurim yonim apanna. Mudha janmani janmani. Mama prapyaiva kaunteya. Tato yantya dhamam gatim. Asurim yonim apanna. Mudha janmani janmani. Mam aprapyaiva kaunteya. Tato yantya adhamam gatim.
Asurim yonim apanna.
Asurim yonim apanna.
Mudha janmani janmani.
Mudha janmani janmani.
Mam aprapyaiva kaunteya.
Mam apravyaiva kaunteya.
Tato yantya adhamam gatim.
Tato yantya adhamam gatim. So Krishna says, I not only cast them to the lower species of life, but Asurim yonim, I send them to the Asurim yonim, to the demonic yonim, and those mudha, those foolish people, janmani janmani, birth after birth, what happens? They go into all the lower species. They go into the more lower species. And mam aprapyaiva, I am never achieved by them. O Kaunteya, O Arjun, Mam aprapyaiva, they can never achieve me. Tato yantya adhamam gatim, and they will always sink down. Right? So let us read the translation by Srila Prabhupada. Attaining repeated birth against the species of demonic life.
Attaining repeated birth amongst the species of demonic life.
O son of Kunti. Such persons can never approach me. Gradually they sink down to the most abominable type of existence. Right? So now we saw how in this in Kali Yuga, the divine and the demonic is in the same humans. We share both. The only thing is that percentage varies from one person to other. Now Krishna explains about the 3 gates to hell. The most important shlok, that is 16.21. In that, Krishna explains that what are the demonic qualities that actually push people to hell. If we have those qualities, then our destination is hell, and it is determined, it is fixed, which is lust, anger and greed. So let us read shlok number 21. Trividham narkasyedam dwaram nashnam atmanah Kama krodhastatha lobhas Tasmadetattrayam tyajet Trividham narkasyedam Dwaram nashnam atmanah Kama krodhastatha lobha Tasmadetattrayam tyajet. So now Krishna explains here Trividham narkasyedam. Narak is hell, and there are 3 ways. Trividham, there are 3 vidhi, there are 3 ways by which people can go to hell, will be sent to hell. And dwaram is gates of nash is of the degradation. What? Atmana is the soul. But there are 3 ways by which we can actually destroy the soul, degrade the soul. And that he says the 3 gates are Kama, which is lust, Krodha, which is anger, Tatha Lobha. Lobha is greed. These are the 3 very, very important demonic qualities. If we have that, then our destination of hell is fixed. Tasmad. So Krishna says that is why. Tasmad. That's why. Etat. Trayam tajet. Trayam means these 3. You must tajet is leave it. We must leave this demonic qualities of Kam, Krodh and Lobh. Right? Now, let us read the translation by Srila Prabhupada. There are 3 gates leading to this hell. Lust, anger and greed. Every sane man should give up these. For they lead to the degradation of the soul. Right? So, we read in the last chapter, in the 15th chapter, Krishna talked about the inverted banyan tree. And he said that this material world can be compared to the inverted banyan tree. And this banyan tree is actually the reflection of the spiritual tree which is there in the spiritual world. So whatever qualities we see in this material world actually in the pure form exist in the spiritual form. In the spiritual world they exist in the pure form, but when we get translated to this material world they get perverted. Now lust, which is calm, actually exists in the spiritual world as love for Krishna. But when it gets just like a reflection, when it gets reflected in this material world, it is lust. So we think similarly anger in the pure form which exists in the spiritual world is compassion. But when it gets transformed into the material world, it is anger. And greed is satisfaction. So the divine quality is satisfaction, and the perverted quality is greed. And that is why Krishna says that lust, anger and greed, we have to leave them. If we don't leave them, then it is the gate to hell. Now, right? So in this material world, when we talk about lust, when we think what we call love is actually lust. It is nothing but an attraction between the men and women, and a desire for material sense gratification and material pleasure. Yeah, that is what we define as calm, running after mental pleasure and running after, so that is lust, right? So what really happens till in this material world, till one person is satisfying the need or doing what the other person wants, till then we think, oh, this person loves me. But as soon as if we don't do as per the requirement of the other person, then we think you don't love me, right? That is a very simple definition of love that has been made. If you do as per my wish, then you are loving me. But if you don't do as per my wish, then you are not loving me, right? Immediately then it is, and that is how the relations are, right? The real love is of that of gopis of Vrindavan. What is the real love? The real love we can see in the gopis of Vrindavan. That was the gopis. That love is totally without any,
Unconditional.
it is an unconditional love, no expectation, right? Even when Krishna left them, they continued to love him. Even they did not left their body because they knew Krishna had told them that I'll come back. And just the thought that when Krishna comes back and they don't find me, with that thought they continued living their life. So that is called unconditional love, right? And that is a pure love. Love means I love you unconditionally without any expectation, right? Yeah. So in Chaitanya Charitamrit, there's a very good definition which has been given for काम, lust. It is आत्मेंद्रिय प्रीति वांछा तारे बोले काम, कृष्णेंद्रिय प्रीति इच्छा धरे प्रेम नाम. So it has been defined, the काम, the lust has been defined as any desire which is there to satisfy my need, the needs for my senses, that has been defined as lust. Any activity or any action that we do which is for satisfaction of my senses, then that is defined as lust. But Krishnendriya Priti Iksha Tare Prem Naam. And what is love? Love is whatever activities that we do should be for Krishna. And when we are doing that, that is actually pure love. And that's what we saw in the love from example of gopis. Whatever they did was for Krishna, nothing for them. Yeah. So that is the definition of lust, pure love, right? So the desire to gratify one's own senses is lust, but the desire to please the senses of Lord Krishna is prem, right? Now, so basically we have to use our senses for Krishna. So our eyes should be used to see the beautiful form of Krishna, for reading the scriptures of Krishna. Our ears should be used for hearing the Krishna Katha, for hearing about Krishna. Our tongue should be used for eating prasadam, or it can be used for talking for Krishna, right? Our nose should be used for smelling the flowers of Krishna. The incense, the stick that we offer, it should be used for that. Our touch should be for serving Krishna. Then the question could be said that if we do all this thing, we are humans, we have to work, and we have to, how can we have to work. Then how can we always do that? So Krishna says the way to live life is whatever we do, even when we work, the working is also for Krishna. We go to office for working, but then the results we offer to Krishna, and from that we take out money for our personal use or for the managing our family and managing whatever things we are doing. So that is the real way of living life. That is the way we have to live life, and that is called bhakti, right? Now, people who criticize Krishna, is they say those who don't understand about the Krishna as a God, as Supreme Personality of God. They criticize Krishna and say, okay, look, how can you talk about Krishna? You look at the Ras Leela that he performed. But the gopis of Vrindavan, they are not like you and me. They are not ordinary human beings. They are actually the liberated souls. They are always liberated souls. They are the eternal companion of Krishna. And whenever Krishna comes down on this earth, they also come down here. So to perform the leela. It is just like, we perform a drama on the stage. So Krishna comes here. He says, Paritranaya sadhunam, vinashaya cha dushkritam. So Paritranaya sadhunam, to basically save the pious. So those sages, those saints who had done lots of austerity tapasya to get Krishna, he comes to reward them, to come reward them. So the gopis are not ordinary human beings like one. So the people who don't, don't understand this relationship, it's because of the lust in our own heart. When we are pure in our heart, then only we can understand the spiritual platform at which the Ras Leela is being performed, right? And we can have an example, like, because this particular pastime of Krishna is talked about by great saints like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, like Ramanujacharya, like Nimbakacharya. They all talk about this, and they are great sannyasi who did not even let any women come near them, but still they talk about this pastime, they meditate on this pastime. So this is basically the gopis are nothing but they are basic the liberated souls whom Krishna has brought along with him to perform the last lila, or they are the great saints, right? So the question is then how to be free oneself from this lust, and the answer is only when we actually basically when we offer ourselves to Krishna and take the name of Krishna, then that is easily we can actually get free from lust. We become pure and we can become free from lust. And this has to be done right from childhood. Many times people say that I will do it, this is not the time for bhakti. I will do it in the old age, when I become elder, then I will do that. And Shankaracharya has in Bhaj Govindam Geet, Shankaracharya has very nicely explained that when we grow old, it doesn't stop. Our desires to satisfy our senses doesn't stop even when we go old. So unless we go into the spiritual path, and he says that if those who don't go towards a spiritual path, even in old age, when the strength has left the old man's body, his head has become bald, his gums are toothless, and he's leaning on crutches, even then the attachment is strong and he clings firmly to the fruitless desire. So the way to come out of this lust is to basically pray to Krishna and come out and move towards the spiritual path, right? Then the question is, what is the relation between lust and anger? And that is what has been talked in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna has said that dhyate vishyan punsa sangesteshu pujayate sangat sanjayate kamah kamat krodha bijayate. Krishna says dhyate vishyan punsa. When we are contemplating, when person is contemplating an object of sense, I need this object, I need this car, whether I can afford or not, but yes, this car is great and I must get this car, right? And then what happens when you keep on thinking about an object, then what happens? We develop attachment to that object, and when we get attached to that object, what happens? It becomes, the lust develops. I need it at any cost. That starts happening. And when I can't get it, then what happens? It gives rise to anger. So lust, when not fulfilled, give rise to anger. And then what happens? When anger happens, then our memory gets bewildered. When our memory gets bewildered, and when memory gets bewildered, what happens? Our intelligence is lost. And when our intelligence is lost, then people fall down. So it's very, very important that lust and anger are very, very closely connected. If our desires are not met, if I need something and my desires are not met, then it will give me anger. It will lead to anger, and with that anger, basically, it will cause my downfall, right? So there's a story of King Alexander. So King Alexander, when from Macedonia, when he was coming along with his soldiers, and when he reached Himalayas, his soldiers were extremely tired and they wanted to return back. But Alexander said, I've come till here and I have really heard that India is rich with lot of yogis and spiritual people. So I must take something from here. And then he started searching for what can he take. And he was looking for, and he found a yogi in the forest. So when he found a yogi in the forest, then he said he wanted to take the yogi along with him back to Macedonia. So he said to the yogi, you come with me. The yogi refused. Now, although Alexander persuaded the yogi many times, but still the yogi was not ready to go with him, right? So in anger, what happens? Alexander took out his sword to kill him. And then the yogi he had no reactions on seeing the sword. He was just calm and quiet. And that really surprised Alexander. He said, do you know who I am? He said, yes. You are the servant of my servant. Now listening that, Alexander was bewildered. And he was like, he still has some intelligence. He kept back his sword and he asked, what do you mean? That I am the servant of your servant? What do you mean by that? Then he said, look, you are angry. You are in anger. So you are the servant of anger. But I have taken control of anger. So I am the master of anger. I am the master of anger. So you are the servant of my servant. And listening to that, Alexander was really bewildered and he could not take the yogi with him. Yeah. So this is on and the last one is greed. Greed. What is the pure form of greed? The pure form of greed is satisfaction. So greed is another demonic characteristics. If we have greed, this will again lead us to hell. Now because of greed, what do? We keep on amassing lot of wealth, lot of things, whether we need it or not. We actually spend all our time in buying things and working hard so that we can enjoy more things. So what happens? This is basically greed. And what finally happens? We grow old, we are not able to enjoy what we have earned, and we finally die. Our life becomes a waste. All our effort becomes a waste, right? So what we need to learn is satisfaction. Whatever it is, we should be able to live in that. And that will give us happiness. Because someone who does not have satisfaction, whatever you will get will become again is less for that person. There's a story of Vaman Dev and Bali Maharaj. So when Vaman Dev came and Bali Maharaj was doing his sacrifice, and then when he saw Vaman Dev, he said, okay, you can ask me whatever you want. So he says, okay. Vaman Dev said, you give me only three steps. So he started laughing. Bali started laughing. I can give you anything, but you have asked me only for three steps. Why so? So Vaman Dev says that, if I am not satisfied in this, I can never be satisfied in whatever you give. So very, very important thing is satisfaction. And then what will be the results of winning over them? If someone can win over these three demonic qualities, which is lust, anger and greed, then what is the result of that? That is the next slok. Krishna says, Etair vimuktah kaunteya tamo dware stribhir naraha acharatma atmanah shreyas tato yati param gatim Etair vimuktah kaunteya tamo dware stribhir naraha acharati atmanah shreyas tato yati param gatim. So Krishna says that those who have win over Etair vimuktah kaunteya, those who have got liberated, kaunteya, O Arjun, those who have got vimukta of, liberated from these three qualities, what happened? Then yatim param gatim, they actually get my supreme destination. So let us read the translation by Prabhupada. The man who has escaped these three gates of hell,
The man who has escaped these three gates of hell,
O son of Kunti,
O son of Kunti,
performs acts conducive to self-realization
performs acts conducive to self-realization,
and thus gradually attains the supreme destination.
and thus gradually attains the supreme destination.
Right? So with this ends the three gates to hell shlok. Then we go to the next two shlok, the last two shloks of this chapter. It talks about the value of scriptures, the shlok number 23 and 24. Let's go to the shlok number 23. It says, Yah shastra vidim utsijya
Yah shastra vidim utsrijya
vartate kamakaratah
vartate kamakaratah
na sa siddhim avapnoti
na sa siddhim avapnoti
na sukham na param gatim.
na sukham na param gatim.
Yah shastra vidim utsijya
Yah shastra vidim utsrijya
vartate karatah
vartate kamakaratah
na sa siddhim avapnoti
na sa siddhim avapnoti
na sukham na param gatim.
na sukham na param gatim.
Mataji.
Yah shastra vidim utsrijya
Yah shastra vidim utsijya
vartate kamakaratah
vartate kamakaratah
sa siddhim avapnoti
na sa siddhim avapnoti
na sukham na param gatim.
na sukham na param gatim. So Krishna says, Yah shastra vidim utsijya. Utsijya means give up. So those who does not shastra vidim utsijya, those who does not follow shastra and do the vartate kamakarata and they continue to do their work based on whimsically, whatever they want they will do, but they do not follow the scriptures. What happened to them? Na sa siddhim avapnoti, they will never get perfection. Siddhim is perfection. Na sukham, neither happiness. Na param gatim, neither they will get the supreme destination. So why we have to follow shastra? Because shastra is free from the four principal defects. As soon as we condition people, we are sent to this, we come to this material world, we become conditioned. We become conditioned by the modes of material nature, and then our senses are imperfect, they are not pure. Our senses are imperfect, they are not pure. Then we have a propensity to cheat. Then we definitely commit mistakes, and we always get illusion. So these are the defects of any human that comes to this material world. But shastras are without these defects. So whatever our shastra says is always right. So we have to follow our shastras, because we do not have, our senses are defective, our mind is delusion, so we do not have the knowledge to know the right knowledge, to know right and wrong. So we should always follow our scriptures so that we can lead the proper way of life. And our shastras has been, it gives us a varnashram system. It has been put in such a way that we have a varna ashram, we have an ashram, we have a brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha, and then sannyas. If we follow this varnashram system, automatically we will actually get elevated spiritually and get the moksha, get liberated, right? And the last slok of this chapter is Tasmat Shastram Pramanam Te
Tasmat Shastram Pramanam Te
Karya Vyavasthitau
Karya Vyavasthitu
Gyatva Shastra Vidhanoktam
Yatva Shastra Vidhanoktam
Karma Kartum Iharhasi
Karma Kartum Iharhasi
Tasmat Shastram Pramanam Te
Tasmat Shastram Pramanam Te
Karya Vyavasthitau
Karya Vyavasthitu
Gyatva Shastra Vidhanoktam
Yatva Shastra Vidhanoktam
Karma Kartum Iharhasi.
Karma Kartum Iharhasi. Tasmat Shastram Pramanam Te
Tasmat Shastram Pramanam Te
Karya Karya Vyavastitau
Karya Karya Vyavasthitau
Jnanatva Shastra Vidhanoktam
Gyatva Shastra Vidhanoktam
Karma Kartum Iharhasi.
Karma Kartum Iharhasi. So Krishna says, one should therefore understand what is duty and what is not duty by regulations of scriptures. Yeah, knowing such rules and regulations, one should act so that he may gradually be elevated. It is very, very important that we follow the Shastra so that we finally get elevated. Yeah. So let's reread by the translation by Srila Prabhupada. One should therefore understand what is duty and what is not duty
What is duty and what is not duty
by the regulations of the scriptures. Knowing such rules and regulations, one should act so that he may gradually be elevated. So with this we finish our 16th chapter, and we will now go to the glories of chapter 16 from Padma Puran. So in Padma Puran, for each of the Bhagavad Gita chapter, there's glories has been spoken by Shivji to Parvati ji. And this is the glory that Shivji explains to Parvati ji. And he tells a story about a king called Khadak Bahu. He said that there was a king called Khadak Bahu who was from Gujarat, and he stayed in Saurashtra. So he lived just like Indra. He was the Indra on the earth, right? And he had kept a big male elephant, and the name of the elephant was Arimardana. Now one day what happened, this elephant got extremely wild. He got extremely wild and he was in a fit of anger, and he broke all the chains, and he was breaking even the elephant's shed. And then he since he was free, he was running here and there, and it was extremely difficult for anyone to control the elephant. Now this king Khadak Bahu was expert in controlling the wild elephants. So he, along with the princess, went to control this elephant. But when he reached there, when he saw the situation of the situation and saw the anger of the elephant, and he was he was almost intoxicated by anger. And so what happened, the king got also scared. And he was he was scared that the elephant should not harm the citizen. So he surrounded, he asked the soldiers to surround the elephant, and they all were waiting. In the meantime, there was a Brahmin who was on the other side of the elephant. He took bath in the pond and he was walking. Now when he was trying to walk towards the king, the elephant was there. Everyone was trying to tell him that, okay, be careful. But they noticed that this Brahmin, he was chanting some mantra, and he actually came forward. He went to the elephant, he touched the elephant, and he walked back and he continued to walk. Now looking at this, the king was extremely surprised, and he stopped the Brahmin. He said, what were you chanting? What did you do so that you could go near the elephant? We all are scared, although. So he said, nothing, I was just chanting some mantra, and I found the elephant to be absolutely fine. So then the king took him to the palace. He actually gave him a lot of gold coins, and then he told him, I'll become your shishya, please tell me the mantra. Then he told that the first three shlok of chapter 16 and the 21st shlok, 22nd, that we talked about, the Trividham Narkasyedam Dwaram Nashnam, the lust, anger. So he said, I chant these mantras every day, and because of that he had the power to even control to calm the wild elephant, right? So the king actually took this lesson from him. He actually started chanting this mantra, and after many months he went to the elephant, and he could also and then he left everything, he started chanting, and finally he got liberated. So with this we finish our 16th chapter, and we'll move to 17th chapter in the next class. So let us chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I would request all of you to put your questions, whatever you have, in the comments. I would be very happy to answer those. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Bye.